Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Talk. And it's great to spend some time with you. It's great to have you see our smiley faces. I was going to say it's great to see your smiley faces, and then I realized it doesn't work that way. They'll see us. So anyways,
You can picture them.
happy Thursday.
I can picture some smiles out there.
Absolutely. I know exactly who's watching right now as this goes live. We know. So it's great to, it's great to hang out and connect, make sure that you know what's going on this week at Lakeview Heights Baptist Church. And so, that being said, it was a big week. It was Family Day. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to know what all of you did on your Family Day. I think some of you know what we did on Family Day. We all tried to beat the Bessies. And yes. This is the, I didn't want to say it's a small trophy. It is a cup of unimaginable size. That's what
unimaginable size.
Unimaginable size. It is.
It doesn't have to be large to be significant. Mm-hmm. I quite enjoy this because it packs a lot of punch of what it represents.
Absolutely.
And it represents that the Bessies couldn't be beaten.
It does. And I will say, there was one member of your family, Kevin, who afterwards was all like, it's a good thing we won the trophy. We used to have a trophy at home, but it got thrown out. So now we have a new trophy. And I thought, that's delightful. Yeah. I actually think maybe next year, because I'm not saying we'll do a car rally next year, but we'll have to have some kind of maybe a Family Day challenge. We should add a layer to it. Can we bring it back? We'll put a new base.
Because it's wood. We'll just add a little.
Exactly, and then it could be eventually maybe one day it will be this like 8-foot tall thing, and it'll be tiny cup, giant column.
So the Bessies have to sign this layer.
I think so. I think in some way.
Next year, hopefully we will beat the Bessies.
That's right. And it'll be
brand our names and
absolutely. It'll be then a new layer, and I think that's what maybe we just got a new tradition going. Again, it doesn't have to be a car rally, but we'll come up with some other challenge. Family versus family to just kind of have some fun and share some laughs. And I know my family had a good time. I heard
What's a highlight from your family?
Oh my goodness. My personal highlight was because I knew where things were, so I didn't want to help my kids cheat. I didn't want to be accused of that. I sat in the van while they were running their hearts out in multiple locations, and I'm like, yes, this is so good. Yeah. They're going to be exhausted, and so that was a highlight. Cool. I think my favorite was. My favorite moment came courtesy of my son. We're talking about different pictures to get, and one of them is get a picture with a friend. And so they're like, oh, do we know any friends? Ezra's like, get a picture of me with like the sky in the background, and we'll be like, it's me with Jesus. And I thought, that is awesome. It's like, because Jesus is my friend. I'm like, that is, you are such a youth pastor's kid. And it ended up being a picture in the end, because I'm like, oh, we'll do that. We got to stop and get out. So he like put his arm around the seat of the van next to him, and it's great. It's beautiful. I think it's my favorite moment of the whole thing.
Yeah. My highlight was we were in the car. We're kind of a third of the way through, and we're like, Cheryl couldn't be there. She was not feeling well. But all of a sudden, we're like, wait, Mom can be part of this. She's got her computer. She's got Google. Yeah. So we called her up, and then she was like, oh, yeah, go here. And so the whole family was working together. So that was really fun.
We should have done that. Sheena was at work. She didn't get to be in the van. I don't think that would have gone as well. But it's sort of like a football team having, the coach up in the booth, right?
Yeah.
You could have done like location tracking, and she could have followed you on Google. Turn left, turn right.
Well, she kind of was, because I was like, okay, we're here and here. And she's like, yep, go this way, this way.
If you guys were smart, you would have been tracking my phone all morning, because as I was going to every location, I thought of that as I was nearing the end. I'm
log into Chris's Google Maps account.
If my location is on and these guys are following me.
What was your highlight?
It was a combination of so there's one spot where we went to the wharf, and you had to go get a picture kind of jumping off the dock. Yeah. And because we're trying to do this super fast, everybody's going, and Emerson, who's on crutches, is just booking all the way out there, and he was just giving her that whole time. And I think that was a real highlight, just seeing him really pushing himself. He didn't get out for a lot of the other ones, but that was a big one. And then when we were done, we came back here and just wanted to hang out and be together. So we played hockey, and so that was
And Emerson, oh my goodness, he was sitting in the chair sniping, and it was pretty fun.
And every kid and every adult played pretty much. And I think that was pretty
For,
awesome.
Yeah.
for at least a few minutes. I know
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
of the little ones were freezing cold.
Oh,
and
Yeah.
did
I
not
got a
stay out.
picture, so it
Yeah.
means that they're in it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's awesome.
Good. So some of those pictures are up.
Some of them are up on the
Our-
Facebook group, and
Yeah.
you can check them out. And feel free to comment and just supportive.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
We're all family here. But that wasn't the only significant event from this week. And Kevin, you had a little question you thought would be worth discussing.
Well, no, I saw it every now and then online of like, what are you going to do on Tuesday afternoon at 2:22? Because actually, nobody's going to get up for 2:22 a.m.
Well, that's the only real 222.
That's the only really
Oh, that was the
2:22. Because actually,
I-
it was
all
actually
those-
14:22.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in that camp. I'm like, if you made a big deal about 222 in the
But
afternoon,
anyways.
Although my
No.
son told me last night that it was actually 10:22, because 22, right? Like military time. So it would have been last night at 10:22. So
what?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
All right.
So what you're saying is the whole thing's a farce. There's no real 222.
But anyways, 2:22
And
was
you know
what we
what?
went with.
I thought, I'll even just throw that out there of just like, wherever you're at, just have a little mini party, have a little whatever. There was a weird numerology comment that jumped on it right away, which I'm like, you missed it. But I thought that was just kind of fun and interesting because like there'll be some kind of like number thing that might happen again. And so what I thought was like, you know what, I'm gonna do something that I've been looking forward to or enjoying. Through the Christmas holidays, I had started reading Lord of the Rings series
Nice.
books. So, I had been meaning to find some time here or there, so I was, at home doing other stuff and waiting for kids to get out of school.
Yep.
And so I just sat and read for 20 minutes and that
Nice.
was about it. And
Nice.
it was nice. Yeah. I do think we're definitely making too much out of it, when we're taking it even remotely seriously. But
Well-
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
I did. I took it seriously because you put the challenge out there, do something at 2:22. So I was in my office on a Zoom call, and I said, "Guys, stop! I gotta get up for a second." I got up. I came out. I'm like, "Kevin, I'm celebrating. It's 2:22, and you weren't even here."
And I was in my office, hard at work,
Yeah.
focused, intense, and I'm working on something, I'm figuring things out, and I'm solving all the world's problems. All of a sudden, someone's shouting at me, calling me Kevin. Kevin! I'm like, it's not me. So, anyways, no, but at the real 222.
So two of us celebrated
asleep.
Tuesday on 2:22.
The real 222. I was dead asleep.
Good.
As one should be.
Yeah,
To the
me
best
too.
of my ability, because someone in my family, when their mom was at work and their father was out prepping for a car rally to watch the show that was too scary, and then had lodged themselves between my wife and I, it was not the best sleep that anyone had, but there we were.
That's great.
Anyways.
Hopefully you had a mini party, whatever you did.
Sure, yeah, whatever you did. It's a once in a lifetime aligning of the twos.
Yeah.
But like aligning of the twos, but yet like there's going to be other ones like I don't know.
Well, on March
Four,
3rd,
It's just fun. Yeah.
it's just silly goofiness. But some things that aren't silly or goofy is coming up real quick, starting in less than a week on March 2. On 3, 2, who cares? On March 2nd is Seek God for the City's beginning. So,
Yeah.
do we have our books or apps? Hopefully we do, if you're going to be part of that. And get ready, because
There's some
that
more
is coming up.
books.
That's like
Yep.
Wednesday. If you are here on Sunday, you can grab a book if you're
Yep.
wanting a book. There's a couple left.
Yeah.
And so encourage you to do that.
Yeah.
You can connect with Susan Jones for more information, or call her up during the week and say, hey, hold me a book. And
Yeah.
Even coming into the office and
That's
buy
right.
one.
If you're
Yeah,
here
yeah.
for something during the week,
Yep.
just
Yeah.
come and say hi. That's always good too. Just pop in the door and say
Yeah.
hello and meet our new office assistant if you haven't already. There's lots of good reasons to come by and
Yeah.
just say hi. At least of which we get to see your face, and that's always good too. So that's next Wednesday. That's coming up. And well, Jeff, I know that you often try and leave us with, after the sermon with a question to kind of ponder during the week, a challenge, an invitation. I think more than anything. So. You kind of left us with a few there.
Yep.
Well, give us one from that sort of
Yeah.
might be worth.
Yeah, I mean,
getting
it's
some
good
feedback
for us and all of us, I think. One was just, how, the invitation was to admit that we can never have Jesus all figured out. So maybe the question is, in what ways have you thought you had Jesus all figured out? Right? Yeah, so there you go. In what ways have you thought you had Jesus all figured out?
Every way. Let's just be clear, my version of Jesus is the only correct version. I'm kidding, of course, because I'm learning to admit when I'm wrong in many areas of life. I think sometimes one of the ways that for me creeps in is I don't quite know how to put this, but the Jesus is always like his whole mission is to bail you out. You know, maybe identifying with Peter on the water and like think, oh, every time I start to sink, Jesus is just going to pull me right out of it. But I think sometimes there's the wrestling with the hardship, especially the ones we create, to, grow from. I think sometimes what I forget is that God's great desire for me personally is to mature and grow. And sometimes that means wrestling with some stuff. And not always being handed the easy answer right away. And there's some versions of Christianity that sort of say, well, if you follow Jesus, you'll always have the easy life, and you'll always get the best parking spot at Walmart, and you'll always have, the answer to every question. You'll have like all whatever, go through the list. And that's not the case by and large. And so I think that's one thing that is helpful to remember for me. But what about for you guys?
Well, similarly, you just sparked something in me. It's easy to have a transactional view of God, like I do this for you, you do this for me.
Yeah.
We hear this all the time, and I don't know, stories or movies or books or whatever. You get in a situation and you're stuck, and you're like, God, if you just get me out of this situation, I will do. I will go to church every Sunday, or I'll give this and we laugh at that, but yet, I tend to act that way. Oh, I've been really good. Like it's been a good run. I haven't been selfish. I haven't whatever. I kissed my wife this morning. Not that that's a hard thing to do, but that just popped into my head. Anyways, I did all these good stuff, and
doing it for Jesus. I know.
I love my wife. I want to kiss her. Anyways, maybe it should have been.
I'm noticing the pedals on your chair, Jeff, as you're trying to back them up.
I'm digging worse. Anyways, something where you did something good and you're like, so God, you owe me, right? And I have to recognize that I continue to do that.
Yeah, well, but you said in there that we laugh at people who kind of take that approach with God, right? Okay, God, if you get me out of this, but yet at the same time, we celebrate it in history, because as soon as you said that, what comes to my mind is that's kind of Martin Luther's story a little bit, right? Wasn't it him who was like on that road, big storm, thought his life was in danger and ending, he cries out to God, then he becomes, Martin Luther, right? And so we sometimes will look back on church history where people did that and we celebrate it like, that's amazing, but yet only because we do that all the time, and then we might laugh at it in someone else, but we don't always have that sober judgment of ourselves where we see how we're doing it. But
that sparks something in me, because I actually think this is a hard thing for people who have grown up in the church.
Yeah.
So, having grown up in the church, my parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, all Christians, always went to church, right?
Yeah.
Like all those things. So you kind of have this sense of I just adopted all this stuff, or I just inherited all this stuff. And even when it comes to that sense of faith, what I always got challenged by God in that, when do you actually even get to that moment of saying, okay, I am a quote-unquote Christian as well too?
Yeah.
Because sometimes even growing up in the church, you're like, okay, you prayed the prayer, yes, great, check mark, you're in.
Yeah.
And I think God does work in those things, but the harder part is, what do you do when it's this slow-moving process that God is working in ways and in people that you can't even begin to understand? Because we always have these exterior lines in the sand of like, do they attend church? Check mark. Do they do this? Check mark. Do they tithe regularly? Right? Like all these things that we sometimes put on God as like, this must be your line in the sand of saying this is what faith is or isn't. And I think God has often challenged me on that of like, no, I'm actually working in people's lives in ways that you don't even begin to understand. And you might have assumed that you already knew because of all of these external things. Now, Jesus said, you will know a tree by its fruit. So I think there's indicators, but yet at the same time, God works in people's hearts in ways that I can't see. Yeah. And I think that's always challenged me too, to think about the fact that somebody I might bump into, and I'm just going to assume that they're not a Christian, probably will surprise me when they're standing beside me in heaven or something like that too. Yeah. And I think that's always challenged me, because Jesus always went into those places where people didn't have everything all figured out, and didn't have him all figured out, and went to people who were just on this constant, one step forward, 3 steps back kind of journey, but they're still taking a step towards him. Yeah. Right? Tax collectors and sinners, that seems to be like the way that, we hear it put in Mark especially, of like, he went to these people, he went to those people, he went to those people, and the people who kind of had it all figured out, like the Pharisees, which, we've been talking a lot at our life group about, they have all these little checkmark things, but yet it's to them that he's actually challenging more so. Do you really know? Do you really know?
And I think this is such an important question, because how often do we try and justify our own position by thinking that's exactly how Jesus would respond? Right? Well, Jesus would do this, so therefore it's like, well, would he? I think a prime example that comes to mind as you're sharing is when Jesus was anointed, like when his feet were anointed, right, during that dinner, and he calls out the host. Yeah. By saying, look, she's crying at my feet. She's doing all of this for me, and you thought you had it set. And
I think even for that woman, and for anybody, there is a moment where it becomes like, this is real. I'm actually giving my life to you. There is a moment of faith that happens that the Holy Spirit brings about. I'm not saying that that's all fluid. I'm just saying, the things that we often use as check marks of you're in, you're out, I think that's always been kind of challenged by Jesus in my understanding.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. So Jesus, we're jumping to John all of a sudden, but okay, here we go. Right when he talks about what his sheep being part of his pen, right? He uses that analogy of being that, basically he mixes a lot of metaphors in that one chapter of John, right? Where he talks about, I'm the shepherd, and then he's like, oh, and I'm also the sheepfold,
sheep hear my voice,
right? And he's like, and I'm the gate.
I'm the gate,
And it's like, well, Jesus, like, just choose one metaphor and stick there, buddy. So he wouldn't even like follow those rules that we put on him. But that whole idea, especially of Jesus being the gate, he's the one who ultimately is that, but yet, how often do I love to go, kind of like you're saying, you're in your, man.
Well, and that kind of leads to the other invitations that we had on Sunday morning is, how are we judging people, right? Like the religious leaders did. They were automatically judging.
And one of the things I was reading this morning was challenging me that there is one way in which judgmentalism is okay for Christians, and that's when we judge ourselves. Right? That's the only one I can adequately, properly judge.
Yeah.
And maybe even that needs to be questioned, right? Does God judge me? Like, so I know that's starting to open a lid on a whole other big debate, which we're kind of out of time for today. But how that, it's that dealing with that thing in my own eye. And that's really the only thing the ultimate thing I should be worried about. Where am I with God? Not where is my neighbor?
Yeah.
Now, as parents, I think we can kind of, with our, lovingly ask God, okay, God, how do I help my kid love you more, so that they come in, to a relationship with Jesus, but ultimately it's.
I think that's also what I do like about another plug. That's what I like about Seek God for the City is it's this bigger understanding, but then also at the same time, it's also, what is this doing in me? How is this what should I be questioning today in me to actually bring me closer to Jesus in all of my understanding of how I'm viewing the world in my city and everything too.
Yeah, and how am I going to be
Yeah.
a light? And
Yeah.
how am I going to be salt here in a world that needs it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And reach out and love the way Jesus did. Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to what challenge you'll bring us
Yeah.
coming Sunday, Jeff. And get, church, please hear us. Don't hear us to say this is how you should answer the question. Our goal by wrestling with these things with you openly like this is maybe to create some room for you to not walk away from a sermon with this is the one thing I need to know, but this is maybe the questions to answer as we apply God's word to our life. What is the Spirit prompting in us to kind of reflect on? And maybe hopefully, I'm trusting that God maybe has helped you see some ways that you've, kind of fenced him in a bit this week. And how we can, he's not good at staying in a box, to put it that way. And so feel free to comment below on the video or, connect with us and share what God's doing in your life. We'd love to hear those stories. And we love to kind of wrestle with one another, sharpen each other, and grow more in that. And on that note, we will see you again real soon.